I always take it for granted that people know what the difference is between chronological age and biological age. And most people don't know that biological age even exists. My body age, I actually measured it today and it was 30 and I'm 55. Pick up the phone, tell somebody you love them, do those things now. You don't want to be saying it at their funeral as a eulogy. You want to be connecting with those people and telling them how much you like them.
Welcome to the Uncover Your Eyes podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Meenal Agarwal. Today's episode will blow your mind. It's about something that we all are going to experience, aging. But we are going to change your perspective today on aging. Joining me today is Zora Benhamou. Zora is a gerontologist and the host of the Hack My Age podcast. She's here to blow up the myths around aging and reveal what we can actually do about it. Listen closely because this episode will change how you look at aging and may just add a decade of quality life in the process. Welcome, Zora. Thank you so much for being on today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah. So, I know you study a lot about aging. So, I'm trying to wrap my head around the whole biological versus chronological age. Like, walk me through this anatomy of a biological age versus the chronological aspect and how we study that.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked because I always take it for granted that people know what the difference is between chronological age and biological age. And most people don't know that biological age even exists. So, chronological age is the number of candles on your birthday cake or on your driver's license. That's the age, is our age that as we all know it. And biological age is the age of your biology inside your body, but your body can also have different organs can have different ages as well. So we may have the chronological age of a 50-year-old, but biologically, if we're not very healthy, we are a 60-year-old. Or it can be the reverse, where you're 50 years old, but the biological age is of a 35-year-old. And this is there are many different ways to assess this, and some are a bit more accurate than others. And the normal layperson can't really measure their biological age of their eyeball versus their heart. So we get these either biological age test kits, or they look at your glycans, or they look at methylation, or you can have a simple body composition scale that gives you this number. It's not accurate, and none of these are super accurate, but you use them as a guide to create a protocol. Then you retest and you see if you're trending down, which is what we like to do, is you adopt a different healthy lifestyle, and then you test again. You hopefully have dropped a couple of years, in the sense that you would, instead of you are biologically 60, now you want to be 55 or 40, or you see some progression to know that what you're doing is actually working. So that's how we're using these tools in sort of a biohacking sense.
Okay, so walk me through the testing process because I want to do this now. What are these tests? Are they blood tests? Are they urine tests? Like, how are we knowing what the age of those organs is? And is it a generalization of all your organs?
Yeah, no, it's most of the time these home kits that we can buy online. They're several $100s. Some of them can be more expensive, some a little bit cheaper. They will take your a blood spot test. So you get this kit, you'd open it up, they give you the little lancet, you prick your finger and you let the blood drop into a little piece of paper. Then you send it back and you're done. And then a few weeks later, you get your report, whatever report that will be. And again, some different labs look at different things, and then they're also basing it just on their database. So you want to get a company that's maybe been around more, has got a bit more data, and they can pit you against other people in your sort of general age group, and maybe even geolocation. They all have different algorithms, but and some of them are more comprehensive than others, where you get this 30-page report and it's overwhelming, but it's so detailed and so comprehensive, but you need a doctor to actually decipher it for you. And then you have some that are a bit more simple. They give you an age, and it's very it's very not very it's very understandable. You understand,
Right.
you don't want to deal with all the, you don't need to understand every single mechanism that's happening in your body. And again, some people love it, some people like different biological age test kits, but I would say if you're going to do one, you get two kits and then you test again, and you test with the same kit. You don't want to be moved because you can get totally
Yeah.
different results from different kits.
Can I ask you if you've done yours? Have
Yeah.
you done one?
Yeah. I've done
Okay.
a couple of them. So I've done well, actually, I have a body scale, and that's was like my first introduction. And I've done many different types of body scales, but you always again want the same one, because body scale I have one. These are just simple body composition scales. You have, it looks like a normal scale. And you have a little cord, and you have a handle, and then it runs through, tells you your body fat composition, your muscle composition, and mine has a body age. So my body age, I actually measured it today, and it was 30, and I'm 55. But again, this is just a body scale. I mean, this is not like super accurate, but I
I'm
see when I'm trending up or down. That's what's important.
okay, can you trend down? I wanna know if you can trend down. Can
You
you?
can, you can. And the algorithm there is basically looking at your weight, and then through this electrical impedance, so it's electricity that goes through your body. It doesn't hurt. It will measure the water composition, the muscle, and the fat, and then it has some information about your age and your height, and it just makes a little calculation. So, but I've been on body composition scales in some health resorts, and it told me I was 16 years old, and I'm like, clearly inaccurate. And it is very inaccurate. And they would tell me I have a body fat of like 6%, and I'm like, this, I am not a bodybuilder. So again, some of these are really fancy machines, and the technician would be like, I'm sorry, we got to do this over again, because it was clearly I'm not 16 and I'm not 6% body fat. But I just want to show you how inaccurate these things can be. So you want to take those things with a grain of salt. But if you want to play around with this stuff, you want to be the same. So I've taken another kit called Glycan Age, and they look at glycans, because they say that glycans is just a measure again of health. It's a health marker. So it'll tell you different things about your health. But the body age I had there was 36. And so I'm like, interesting. So I retested again, I think maybe 2 years later, during the time I had osteoarthritis, which is a degenerative joint disease. And I was not able to do impact anymore, very limited with mobility. I did everything I possibly could to try to maintain my diet and my stress management. And even though you're always on the stress when you live with chronic pain, and I had actually, I believe I'm correct, gained 2 years. So I was about 38, which was 2 years later than, I mean, I
Makes
wasn't,
sense.
it wasn't horrible, I didn't go down in age, but again, considering, and I have another kit. And now that I had two hip replacements, and I'm feeling great, and I'm starting to get back into some extra, I can't do impact yet, but I'm doing more exercises. I'd love to test it again. And it's also very interesting if you're going through menopause and you're losing your hormones. There are some studies out there showing that a woman, as she loses her hormones, she's actually getting aging a lot faster. And that's quite a normal thing when you lose your hormones. But again, if you want to slow that progression, at least in these studies that we're doing, they put women on bioidentical hormone therapy, and then boom, their age came back down again, because it's very anti-inflammatory in terms of, they'd say, estrogen would be very helpful in many cases. So yeah, I've done that. There's another test called True Diagnostic, and that's very comprehensive. And I can't remember my biological age, but I know it was pretty good. And there they have a really cool dial system where they have a rabbit and a turtle, and it's the pace of aging. They can determine how fast are you aging. So you of course want to be a turtle. So the closer to the turtle you are, the better. And then if you retest, you want to see if that dial's moved a bit more. That's just one of the little fun features that
Yeah.
you can.
But how okay, like, I'm very worried because I guarantee you I'm gonna be 10, 15 years older if I test mine than I am. So,
But you may be
uh,
surprised. I've had plenty of
so
people say the
no,
same thing,
no,
and they were really surprised.
no.
So,
So, okay,
I
so
don't know.
what is how are you like, what does reversing it mean? It means that you're now less inflamed. What are we looking at that's now less that shows that we're younger? Less
Yeah,
sugar, less inflamed. Like, what are
yeah.
those factors?
It's usually an inflammation oxidation problem that we have that's accelerating the aging process. So we want to do things that are lowering inflammation, and that would be again changing your diet, exercising. Although exercising can be inflammatory, so some of these biological age test kits would test marathon runners, and they were so old. They were much older than their chronological age because they were constantly beating their body. So even though exercise is great, too much is inflammatory. You're not giving your body a chance to rest and
Rest.
recover. So you may go, I'm perfectly healthy. And there's another surprise. You always get surprises with these tests. And so yeah, so you'd want to make some kind of a change. They say don't take these tests if you are sick, if you're like had even just a cold or something, because you're going to have a lot of inflammation in the body, and it will be a misdiagnosis or a misreading because you're not sick all the time. So you want to be able to just try to avoid those times. But yeah, it is mostly a factor of reducing inflammation, and you'll see these things when you make changes in your diet and lifestyle, and that's what the beauty of these things are. I know people are afraid of it. They don't like to. They assume they're going
Yeah.
to be worse than they are, and sometimes they are. But the cool thing is that we can make a change and retest and see if it's working. And if it's not, then you go, well, wait a second, I got to do something else, right? It's what you're doing is not working. And we love getting data and measuring and testing and assessing if this is the right thing for us or not.
So what's the hacks? I need to know this. You mentioned obviously the diet, the exercise, but what like if you had to pick hacks like for me today. So, what would you tell me and how much of what?
Hmm. It's really hard to say because we're all bio individual, right? So if you said to me, you have a gut issue, it's let's fix the gut, whatever that may be for you and your issue. And so that's one thing. The foundations is the things that we know. So but I would always say let's target the one area, because if I tell you to do everything, no one's going to do everything. So you may want to hone in on something. So if gut is your thing, let's fix the gut. If you are a woman going through menopause and you're having hot flashes and you're having night sweats and you're having anxiety and mood swings and everything, you may want to consider hormone therapy, and that will maybe help you sleep better. And when you sleep better, then you can go to the gym. And when you go to the gym, you feel like eating healthy, and it just kind of spirals into into a good way, out of control. So the foundation is very things we know is getting a healthy diet, whatever that means. I have traveled around the world. I've seen many different diets, people thriving on different diets. We generally, I mean, again, if you have a high inflammation, you want to eat an anti-inflammatory diet, whatever, include vegetables and
Yeah.
fruits and healthy whole foods in your diet. Now, if you have gut issues, you probably want to stay away from gluten or lectins or whatever it is that's causing this inflammation. Maybe for someone who doesn't have these gut issues, they can handle those things. Not to demonize foods. I hate to demonize foods, but it's a matter of figuring out what is going to lower that inflammation for you. If you're an overtrainer, I would say stop exercising like crazy. Let's get maybe bring
Yeah.
a little bit more yoga, a bit more balance. If you love running and you've been running every day, let's run a couple of times a week and then do some yoga, maybe lift heavy. Get a well-rounded exercise program with a lot of recovery days as well. And as we're going through this menopause transition, we realize very often, if you're athletic, wow, it's taking me longer to recover. To give yourself some time to recover. And then we have the stress component, and stress is, gosh, it's one of the biggest killers. I have to say, I hate, again, we demonize this thing. We need stress, some level of stress, but it's that chronic stress that's not serving us. It's not helping us very well. So figure out that piece. Some people like meditation. Some people like walking in nature. Some people just stay away from toxic people in their lives. They take a
Yeah.
vacation, whatever that means to you. It's nice to have a daily practice where you have it just for yourself and just, lower that down. I'm a huge advocate for breath work and breathing.
Okay.
It's free. It's a simple tool. We all, can learn how to breathe. We've all forgotten how to do it, but taking a few moments in breathing is really gonna. If you're wearing any kind of a gadget, a Apple Watch or an Oura Ring or some of these devices that measure your heart rate, your temperature, you can literally see the data, not only feeling good, but you can see the heart rate coming down. You can see your temperature getting more regulated. If you were to measure with a blood pressure cuff, you'd see the blood pressure coming down with just a minute or two of breath work, 1 to 2 minutes. It's unbelievable how powerful it is. So that's the stress component, and then we have the sleep, prioritizing that sleep. Talk about sleep hygiene. And then one thing that a lot of people don't forget in this, especially in this biohacking space that I'm in, is the power of community and connection and purpose in life, knowing yourself. These are things that are bringing meaning to life. And you could be biohacking your way all throughout and trying to eat healthy and exercise, but if you're alone and you feel lonely, it's quite damaging. And in loneliness, and we were talking about loneliness, it kills. It's like smoking 17 cigarettes a day in terms of the amount of damage that it does on the
Absolutely.
body. That is pretty serious. And being alone is very different than feeling lonely, just so we understand. You can have a lot of people around you, but you're feeling very lonely. And then there's people who are alone, not many people around them, but they're not lonely. So it's just that loneliness factor that is feeling like
Yeah.
you're not heard, you're not seen. And that's very damaging. So we want to don't forget to prioritize your friends or prioritize your fun. Making those meaningful relationships, nurturing your network is super important. And then if you can get some of those pieces, whatever it is in those pieces that's missing,
Yeah.
focus on that, then retest. Not that you can't do it, you can't do everything at all, but you just take one.
I love that you talked about the loneliness because there was a study out of Harvard that's the longest running study on health and happiness. And they said the biggest indicator of health and happiness, and health being a big one, was your social connection and your support. And that loneliness, exactly what you said, is toxic, just as toxic as alcohol and smoking. And they actually compared that in the study. So that's really interesting. And there was a fertility doctor that I was, quoted a study that I had spoken with that said mindfulness can boost your great fertility hormones by 30%. And that
Oh,
was done in
wow.
a study. Yeah, 5 minutes of mindfulness a day. I was like, really, just 5 minutes? So I mean, it's phenomenal that these studies are now showing that correlation rather than talking about medications. Is they're talking about things like mindfulness and social connection, which are great, natural, easy medicines and make us happy,
Exactly.
right? So
Exactly.
that's so key. Can we talk about like muscle mass? I want to say out there, we say over 30 or over 40, we lose like 7-8% of muscle mass a year, and that is a concern. Why
Mhm.
is that a concern, and how can we slow that part down?
Yeah, we do lose muscle mass, and every year after the age of 30, I think it's about, I think it's maybe 1% or 2%, but once we get into the perimenopause transition, during this transition we can lose up to 10% of our muscle mass alone. So it accelerates. Everything seems to accelerate when we lose our hormones. And so we want to, and then after that, once you've stabilized your hormones, you continue to progressively lose your muscle mass. And that's partly because of hormones, age related muscle loss, but a lot of it has to do with we're not moving like we should be, and we're not focusing on keeping our muscle mass. We're very much more sedentary. We're in our cars all day, we're in our chairs all day. We don't make time to we walk. Walking is great. It's not going to build muscle, So again, another thing we need to do really, well, yeah, if you want to stay independent, and most older adults want to stay independent, you not be a burden on their children, then we need to stay strong, because you'll see at some point, if you don't focus on it, you can't even open a jar anymore. You can't carry your groceries anymore. You need people to help you, and who wants that? So we it's very, very important to keep our muscle mass as we age, and we know it declines, and there's many reasons, yeah, for that.
And like how much and we're asking for myself,
Mhm.
but how much like do we need every week? Like, is there like a magic number? After you're 40, you should do, I don't know, 10 minutes or 30 minutes of muscle training every day. Like, what is it? And is this just lifting weights?
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's a little bio individual there. Some people respond better and faster than others, but if you were to speak with some fitness experts or trainers, or even in my gerontology studies, it would be about 3 times a week of lifting something heavy. Now, what's heavy for an 80-year-old is going to be different than what's heavy for a 40-year-old. So we have to keep that into perspective. But the sweet spot is usually 3 times a week. And that means if you're going to lift heavy, and that means something like, if you were to do, they mostly speak about 6 to 8 reps. Okay, we're not doing this 15 reps with little baby weights. We're taking something a little bit heavier, and by the time you get to 6, you're like, oh my god, I'm not sure I can lift this anymore. Okay,
Right. Okay.
it's getting really, really hard, to the point of failure, right? So you want to get like 1 rep before the failure, more or less. And again, everybody has their different theories, and everybody's going to say, you're going to hear conflicting information, but generally it's something like that. I always like to say, if you're not making sex sounds in the gym, it may not be heavy enough.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
It's got you're got to be literally
Yeah.
tearing muscle fibers, because those need to regrow, and when they regrow bigger. All right, and it's not just about muscle mass; it's about strength and power, right? Because you can keep the muscle mass and not be so strong, and we want it. We want the strength. So we want to somehow know how many minutes a day and all those little details. You do what you
What you
can.
can.
If all you can do is 5 minutes, it's better than nothing. And for those people who cannot get to a gym, or something happened in your life, somebody died in your family, and you just the whole world stopped, or you got a surgery, or you have injury, there are things called blood flow restriction bands that I have used personally myself, and I've been recommending it for years and years now with amazing feedback. And I was shocked that we're not studying this in gerontology. And what they are, they're bands that you put on your arms or your legs. Actually, I have some. I leave them around the house like toys. So these are bands that you put on your arm or your legs, like you never put them at the same time, and they fill up with air, and they're going to partially compress, and block the blood flow going to the arms partially, right? It's nothing, you're not going to fall apart because of that. And what that does, it releases your own natural growth hormone, along with many other great, things that are happening in the body as well. Your body thinks it's doing 100 burpees, but you're just having this compression on for 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. There are different bands. There's some bands that cyclically inflate for 30
Right.
seconds and then deflate for 5 seconds. Those are very easy to wear, because you don't almost don't feel it. I mean, some people do feel it, but most of the time you're like, by the time it starts feeling comfortable, it's released. And so what they do is you're able to save muscle mass, and there's a lot of research. Like, you can go to PubMed for decades now. This has been around. This is, again, nothing new, and you'll find studies done on people just getting out of surgery or have been injured. They cannot move, and they put this on their body, and they're able to preserve the muscle mass or even increase it. Now, not by a whole lot if you're completely bedridden, but the moment you start to move, even if it's just a bunch of arm lifts in the bed, then you have more gains. And if you are actually able to use these, like, these are called targeted compression bands. So I use them when I'm doing my rehab, because I've had 2 major hip replacements, and I haven't been able to move. And so when you are able to do a little bit more, then you have even more gains. So it's a tool that I think more people need to be aware about. And I'm so happy to talk about it, because as we're going through menopause, we struggle, or we may get injured more often with the loss of estrogen. It's very, very
Right.
common.
So is this just for injured patients, or is this really for anyone? Like, could I be doing this?
Yes. You will find two camps. When I was researching this, trying to figure out what in the world, when I first heard about it, I went on YouTube, and you find two camps. You have the people, the rehab people, the physios, and talking about it and how to use it. And then you have the bodybuilders. The bodybuilders are like, I want to lift even heavier, but I don't want to break my back and get injured. So, what can I do? They use these bands to get even more gains. And I would never say it's a replacement for exercise. Exercise is absolutely necessary. You need to lift heavy, but sometimes we can't. And this is such a great tool to add on to what you're doing already, or again, if you're injured or stuff. But I've recommended to many people, many different ages, and they report back to me that they have more muscle. You can see it. You can see it from day one. You can see that there's more muscle mass. But I love to use these body composition scales, and you can see the progression over time, the muscle mass getting higher and higher, and lo and behold, fat mass gets down, because the more muscle you have, the faster the metabolism runs, the more fat you can burn, et cetera, et cetera. And the more we can eat, yay. And you need to eat, because it's not a magic pill, in the sense you cannot do exercise and not eat your
Yeah.
protein.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to feed the muscles for them to grow, right? So we need, it's a part of a lot of things. But yes, absolutely, 100%, you could be using these.
And are these used like, so is it's targeted from my understanding? So it's like you put it on one arm, then the other arm, then your leg. So you're targeting each area separately. Is that what you're doing?
Yes, well, not one at a time. You put both arms at the same time, and then you take those off, and then you put both legs on at the same time, and it's targeted in a way that it is targeting the muscle groups. So you will have uh, it runs systemically. So even though you have your arms, you will get benefits all the way down to your toes, but you'll have more benefits on the upper part of your body. So do you know Dr. Dale Bredesen? He studies, he's a neurologist. He's very famous for writing the book, uh, Ending Alzheimer's. He's got an amazing protocol. If anybody's got Alzheimer's or knows somebody, go follow Dr. Dale Bredesen. He's got incredible research and protocols. And one of the protocols, he uses these bands with his patients because it brings more blood flow to the brain. And that's a part of the thing. You're not only getting growth hormone, you're getting more blood flow. You're partially restricting it, but the moment you let go, boom, all of this blood flow just releases back into the body. And this is why the body thinks it's doing 100 burpees, even though you're not. And so it's, don't be fooled. Sometimes people wear these things, they're like, I don't feel anything. Is it working? It's working. It's
And
working.
you're
But
doing this daily? Are people doing this daily?
I do it every day.
So people are using
Every
this
day,
daily. It's part of their
especially,
routine.
when I wasn't able to move, I felt like I need to do something. And I knew going into surgery with more muscle mass would serve me in recovering much faster. So I did not want to lose anything. And so I not only didn't lose muscle mass 2 years leading up to the surgery, but I actually gained it with
Wow.
very limited mobility. Towards the end, I couldn't even walk.
Wow. Okay, I need to understand the muscle aspect that you talked about a little more. I don't know if I fully understood, or even prior to our podcast, that the whole tearing, and then we need to tear it, and you need to go, like, when I'm lifting weights, I'm like, "Oh, that's too heavy. Okay, it's not good for me. I got to go lower." Right? No, so can you explain that anatomy of why we're doing that?
Yes, it's a stressor, right? Exercise is a stressor on the body, and right, the body, we want to get into a hormetic stress. We want the body to be a little bit stressed, but not too much, because we want it to be recovered. If you're always at the same level and lifting the same weights, your body gets used to it, and you're not able to get to the next level. It's kind of like if you were to, I study languages. I speak 6 languages, and I've gone to so many language classes. And every time I start, I go in a group and I meet people who are there for 3 years. I'm like, I'm going to be here 3 months and I'm going to be out because I know I need to go and make mistakes and talk to people, but you're not progressing. Like, you're doing the homework and I don't understand. So they're not recalling, they're not, their brain also needs to be stressed in a way like it's lifting heavy weight. Learning languages is one of the best ways to build new brain cells. And that is because you've got to recall words that you just remembered, and the more that you repeat and recall, then you're making those
Yeah.
neural
Yeah.
connections and you're able to remember it even better. So when I was studying Chinese, the Chinese teacher was always asking me, how do you say bread in Chinese? And I'm like, oh wait, hold on. And she would tell me, mean bao. And I'm like, no, why did you tell me? I was lifting the heavy weight and you just lifted the weight for me. How am I going to build muscle? How am I going to build that connection? Don't tell me. And this muscle is a bit the same thing. It needs that little stressor. And literally, the muscle fibers are tearing. And I couldn't get into the gritty details in terms of, uh, it's how detailed is that, but to make things very simple, it is just literally like tearing something, and it has to repair, rebuild. So you're causing some inflammation in the body. It sounds bad, right? But inflammation is good up to a certain point, right? If you cut your finger, you need that inflammatory response to kick in, blood, make a clot in the blood, start to make a scar, and then you heal, and then you actually regenerate new skin. Like, how amazing is that?
Yeah.
Like, we are able to regenerate. So the same thing is with a muscle. You're getting an inflammatory response. So one of the worst things that biohackers kind of do, including me at some point, I was jumping into an ice bath right after my training session. And you'll see that. And I learned that from when I was running cross country in high school. And we would put our legs into the ice bath because there was so much inflammation. We wanted to cool that down. Our goal wasn't to build muscle. Our goal was
Right.
like, let's reduce this inflammation. This is like in the 80s, right? So it's, again, nothing new, but now I realize, oh, I shouldn't be, if I'm trying to build muscle in the gym, I shouldn't go and tame the inflammation. And some people are taking anti-inflammatory supplements that, because they're good for you, but don't take them right when you're trying to build muscle and repair, like immediately after. You can wait several hours and then you go jump in the ice bath if you want, or take your anti-inflammatory stuff. But you want to create that inflammatory response, because the body just kicks in and starts repair and regenerating the same way that you would a cut on your finger. So that's kind of what's
That's a
happening
really
then.
cool way to. So talk to me about these ice bath. So I see a big fad about it, like on Instagram, people putting their face into ice, jumping into ice baths. You see a lot of spas now where
Yeah.
people are having the cold plunge. I went in, and then they have the regular. I never go into the cold plunge; it's too cold. So, what is the idea behind it?
So ice bathing is very similar to any other hormetic stressor, like stressors that are done long term. If too long will kill you, but we know that in short bursts that can be very, very helpful to get you to the next level. So let's say exercise or fasting are similar things. We don't want to do them too long. And ice bathing is the same thing. There's a sweet spot for how long to do it and how cold, etc. And every person's a little bit different. But what the research has been showing, and it's why everybody's excited about it, is that it helps lower inflammation, it helps bring circulation, it brings more blood flow, it starts to recruit healthy cells, gets rid of damaged cells, turns white fat, that's stored fat, into brown fat, which is a good thing. So it's fat burning, and a lot of cool stuff that's happening. But most of the research is done on men. So when it comes to a female, we are having different results. And I know this because from my own community and my own experience, is that why can the guys seem to go every single day and there's no problem? They don't complain, whereas women have different experiences each time. And sometimes they just feel really bad going into the ice bath. And that's partially because we have hormones, right? We have different fluctuations uh, month to month, whereas men can pretty stable every day. So what some of the research is coming out now on females is that we are, because it's a stressor, it's not recommended that a woman go do this if she's still cycling on the last week before her period. That's the time, if you listen to the Dr. Stacy Sims camp or anybody who's looking at hormones and cycles and exercise, they say there's timing to when you want to push it hard and when you want to take the pedal off the gas. And that's usually when, because our body's in a bit more stressed state the week prior to your period. And so if you can just take a back seat, take it easy, that's when we kind of don't want to push it so hard with the exercise or do ice bathing, for example. And I always tend to tell women to follow your intuition when it comes to ice bathing. Don't do it just because everybody says you should do it 10 minutes a day and all that. No, usually your body will tell you if you don't feel like nobody feels like going to an ice bath when it's like that. But some
Yeah.
research is showing that women don't need to have it as cold as men to get some of the really great benefits. So I can't remember the exact number, but I would say, again, I'm not Fahrenheit versus Celsius. Generally, when a cold bath will be about 40 degrees Celsius. In Fahrenheit, I thinking it's 35. I don't know. I don't know my Fahrenheit Celsius, but it's friggin' cold. It's very, very cold in there. But women can do it at about 12, 13, 14 degrees. And this is getting in their 50s, I guess, Fahrenheit, more or less. It's cold, but
Yeah.
it's not like, doesn't feel like it's killing you. So some people, some like Chinese medicine, for example, that anyone who studies Chinese medicine says women shouldn't be doing ice bathing whatsoever. Not good for your hormones or not good for your body. So again, I think you have to feel what's best for you. There's no doubt that I've seen so many women jump into a cold pool or ice bath, men and women for that matter. What I do see, one benefit across the board, is when they get out of the bath, they feel so empowered. And that's because a lot of this stuff is in your head. The fear, the preparation, the anticipation of going into something cold, and it's going to hurt. I'm not going to lie, it hurts. and and you go in there, and usually when I don't think anybody should just go into an ice bath or jump into a cold lake or something. You need to be prepared for this. You need somebody to talk you through this, a coach of some kind, because usually what they'll be doing is teaching you how to breathe and how to breathe when you're in a panic state, because your body is in a complete panic state. Even if you look like you're chilling out and I'm like, I got
Yeah.
this, your body is freaking out. So you want to breathe through it. And when you breathe through it and you start to relax into the ice, I know it sounds horrible, but you do, and you actually feel warmer. And you're able to, and you're like, oh, it's not that cold anymore. I can actually handle it. And when you come out, you realize you can control a lot of stuff with the thoughts in your head and the breath. And if I can do this, I can do anything. So you really do
Yeah.
get empowered. I think most people should at least go into an ice bath once in their life to experience that. And I've seen plenty of females as well who have a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, and they use this as a tool to help them. They feel better going into the ice bath. And again, everyone has their different regime, what works better than them. But I usually tell women to follow your intuition. Your body kind of knows if you listen to it, it'll tell you today's not a good day to do an ice plunge, or let's try.
So is the idea really like shocking your body?
It is shocking, definitely. It is shocking, and the idea is that, well, it's the stressor. It's the stressor in the body going, I am uncomfortable, and I always like to use the saying, like, seek discomfort in life. I know it's not comfortable, but you'll see that they'll probably bring a lot of benefits to you if you can just get past that uncomfortableness. And again, you don't want to go so far that you're going to kill yourself or hurt yourself. Don't do anything
Yeah.
stupid,
Yeah.
but you want to seek discomfort, and that's where the magic happens. And the body is in a stress state, and it's again trying to survive, and it's cleaning up a lot of damage that's been done, and it's trying to help you in a good way. Your body, I believe, is always fighting for you, wants to help you, you just have to get out of the way and let it do its magic.
What about peptides? Like, talk to me about, I mean, I'm not familiar with, a lot about this, but I know in the biohacking space, they talk a lot about, peptides and other things. Like, what are they doing to us? And are you advocating for this?
Peptides are they've been around forever. It's not like something new. They're just short chain amino acids. If you look at
Right.
a protein is a chain of amino acids. They're longer, and then peptides are usually shorter, but they're very powerful. They can do many things, and they're usually targeted. Some are a bit more broad, some are a bit more targeted, and when you refer to peptides, you may think the first time I heard peptides, I was like, oh, yeah, I have collagen peptides I take as a supplement, or I have it in my skincare, not really understanding what they are. So
Mhm.
we've probably been using peptides in some form or another without even realizing it. But when we take it next level, we're talking about there's anything from a supplement like a bioregulator that is very short chain amino acids to maybe a nasal spray to a sublingual to an injection, right? So we there's this broad range of ways we can take peptides, and people take peptides as therapeutics. They are not it's you don't need a prescription for this. So it's but I wouldn't say go order this online anywhere, and you don't know, especially if you're injecting yourself, you don't know what you're injecting. So you want to work with somebody who understands peptides for your purpose. Now, one of the most famous peptides is BPC 157, and you can have it as a supplement or you can have it as an injectable. And it's quite famous for being healing for the gut. People with gut issues love BPC 157. And in what I've been hearing in my community is that actually a supplement is pretty effective, because usually on the spectrum of from a supplement all the way to an injectable is the what you'll get the fastest results with,
Right.
right? So again, but not everybody wants to inject themselves, right? So it's nice to have that. So it's really cool to hear that we have that. And I think there's some people coming up with creams or patches, that there's
Hmm.
different delivery methods that are coming out of there, and it seems like there's a new peptide coming out formulated every week. There's something new, and we have bit more natural peptides. We have some synthetic peptides. And when from my own personal experience with peptides, well, let me explain first. There are peptides. If you have, I mentioned the gut issue, and there are peptides for your skin. There are that you can either put topically or injectables. There's peptides that can target your liver and liver health, your thyroid and thyroid health, and they're it sounds a bit like more like an exosome or a stem cell, like it knows where to go. You're like, how does it know? It just knows where to go. So you don't need to be, if you're injecting a peptide for your gut, you don't really need to inject it in the gut. I mean, although you usually do it on the sides of your abdomen if you are injecting. You just find a little bit of fat, you pull it out, and you inject yourself there. Sometimes you inject yourself daily. Sometimes it's once a month. Sometimes it's once a week. It depends, because your doctor or your practitioner will give you a protocol based on your issue, how long that will be, what's the dosage. It sounds like medicine and medication. It
Right.
has to be treated like that because there are different protocols. But BPC 157 is probably the one of the most, I think, talked about, because it's quite safe, quote unquote, and it's been around for a while, and it's almost like when I get these protocols or I hear other people on protocols, it's kind of like, yeah, you can do this every day. I don't know, go for months at a time. It's not like, oh, can only do a week and only a short dose and just like this malt. It's really quite one of the foundation peptides if you have anything. And I was taking it not because I had gut issues, but because I was going into a hip surgery, and it helps with angiogenesis. It helps with a nerve repair. It helps with muscle and tissue repair. I just got cut majorly, and I needed to repair, and I wanted to repair faster than normally. So that was one of the reasons why I took VPC. But then I thought, well, you know what? I'm getting full of medication, all these antibiotics, all this stuff put into me. I probably want to protect my gut anyways. So there'll probably be some nice secondary effects. So that was BPC 157. I also used another one called thymosin beta 4, or sorry, thymosin beta 4, but also TB 500. And then the difference is one is synthetic, one is more natural. But there's a whole world of peptides out there, and it depends on what you need. And if you, I think it's definitely a world to explore. And again, you can start very simply with it's like a supplement. Usually they take longer, but if you need the big guns, you can go straight to the injectables, try with different things, but you really do need to work with somebody who knows what they're doing. Again, I always believe you can do more harm than good playing around with these kinds of things.
So are these, really biohacking? Are they helping to, help you heal? So if you have inflammation or you're going through a surgery, helping you heal, or is it actually helping to decrease your biological age?
Both, because if you are reducing inflammation, if you are healing, then your body is literally regenerating itself. I regenerated tissue that was cut, right? And I had peptides that I was putting on my scars. It's called GHKCU, and it's a serum. And I put it on my scars, and you just put it on every day, and it's helping just with cellular turnover. It's again, you see the magic because the skin is actually healing and regenerating. So it's like turning back the clock in terms of your skin and skin health. So you would, if you were to take a biological age test kit after doing a peptide protocol, you will see if it's actually doing the job or not. And if it's not, well, it's either not great peptides that you bought, or maybe it's not the right protocol, maybe it's not the right peptide. And that's why I love testing, measuring, and assessing, because we can see, are these things really working for us or not. But if you're working on the gut, you will feel it. You will you will feel if this is working or not working for you. But it's incredible, the world of peptides, and there's courses out there you can learn. There's books, there's podcast. There's a peptide podcast that I was just introduced to. That's
Wow.
all they do. I learned a lot about peptides from my biohacking bestie Natalie Nidham. She's got a great podcast called Longevity, and it's all about longevity. But she has a personal interest in peptides, so she talks a lot about peptides in that podcast as well.
I know you also talk, you talk a little bit about red light therapy. So tell me, like, I mean, the natural red light from the sun. I know, we talked earlier about just, advocating about the, UV and exposure in the mornings. Tell me a little bit about the red light therapy and how you feel it's effective.
So red light therapy is also called photobiomodulation. It's like the fancy word, because there's so many different types of light and wavelengths. And, we're just talking about red light or infrared, but there's blue and there's green. And again, a whole world that you can learn about out there. But red light therapy has been quite around quite a while, and we do have it naturally from the sun. You'll see that natural red glow as the sun rises or as the sun sets, and that's healing. That's amazing. That's, you're getting that in your eyeballs, you're getting setting the circadian rhythm, and your skin is adapting, and there's even some protection that's happening in those early hours that will help you later on. Many benefits. But not everyone can go watch a sunrise or a sunset, right? So
Mhm.
so what do? We create devices because we can't always do this, and sometimes we need to do this as a treatment protocol. We need to do it every day. Or usually with red light therapy devices, they'll tell you to have a couple days off because it's very powerful. And what you're doing is there's certain wavelengths that are penetrating into the body. Some of them are near, some of them are far, and it depends on, like, if you have a mask that has a red light, it's not going deep into the cells. You don't need to. You just want to deal with the surface of the skin. But if you have joint pain and injury, then you need a powerful light that actually gets down into the tissue and into the cells. And usually what these devices do is increasing blood flow. And you have panels that you can put in front of you. Usually you have to stay a distance of maybe 12 inches or so. And then you have devices that you can lay directly on a body part and do its healing. And then you have the masks that you can obviously lay on top of your thing. There's even hats for people who want to grow
Yeah.
their hair, and you put on the hat and it's working as you're on the computer or walking down the street. It's pretty cool is that what we have. But there is plenty of research on it. Now, I've been recommending devices for ever since I got into this world. And what I'm seeing is that the claims that are made on the website, it's like, wow, it does everything, doesn't do everything for everybody. And you see different people reacting in different ways. So I'll have somebody who buys a device for gut and she's like, oh my God, it's amazing. And like, I don't know. And then the other one is like, oh my God, I feel worse. And I don't know what's happening and I can't stop going to the toilet or, you know, and again, it depends on, and they have people who feel nothing. So it is a different, different people, different experiences. But usually, if I've seen in my community, everybody sees something somewhere. And now
Yeah.
there was one woman who was trying to, I think it was about, oh yeah, it was her thyroid. She was told to put this device on the back of her neck so it would penetrate and get into her thyroid. And what she realized is that she started to have hair growth on her temples. And she says there was nothing else she was doing. And the only thing she could take it down to was this red light device. And there was a doctor I spoke with, Dr. Zula Frost, who understands all of the devices and photobiomodulation. And she says, yeah, it makes perfect sense. You know, it's right there. It's near her head. She's working on the thyroid. Thyroid's probably kicking in. And then she's having this hair growth. So like
Wow.
it can do things that, yeah, you don't really know. For me personally, I got it because I had the osteoarthritis and I was having joint issues and it was hurting. And so if I walked too much in the very beginning until I couldn't walk anymore, but at the very beginning I could still walk and do things, or I would put this device on, I would feel relief from it. Didn't reverse my osteoarthritis, which I was hoping it would do, but but at least it helped relieve some pain if I did too much walking or something like that. So I think people should explore these things. The problem is they're quite expensive.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so they're always wait until like a Memorial Day sale, or there's sales all
Yeah.
the time. That's when you want to go and get one. But I wouldn't buy anything that's cheap on Amazon, because
Yes.
it's
No.
not just about buying a red light bulb. It has to be a certain wavelength. It has to be a certain type of bulb.
Penetration, effectivity, all of that.
Yeah. I
Um,
did a great podcast actually with Dr. Julia Frost on how to buy a device. I was like, just tell us what to look out for. And again, I don't remember, like you'd have to listen to that episode with your paper and pen and write notes, but it was really useful because you knew what to look out for. But it usually you've got to invest some money to get something that's going to be
yeah.
powerful enough to do it.
I got one a while ago, a couple years ago when I couldn't walk. I actually had severe sciatica, I had a disc kind of
Mm.
bulge, and, I've been using it since then, and you wouldn't believe, Zora, I was not able to walk for a good 2 weeks. I went to every doctor. I had an MRI. I was in the emerge, and like it was so bad to the point where if I moved, I took 2 steps, like the nerve pain was
Oh,
shooting up and
okay.
down. And I was put on like, well, told to be on like gabapentin and all these different drugs. And I was like, but this is not a sustainable solution. There is something wrong with me. We found out through the MRI there was a disc bulge, but kid you not, I got a red light belt on a Friday morning and I did it. I think I was going trigger happy and I did it like, 4 or 5 times that day just out of desperation. By
Mhm.
the evening, I was walking.
Amazing. I mean, I think you did the right thing, because oftentimes people will do it once a day for 10 minutes and they're like, it's not working. And I'm like, I don't think I mean, it's for your issue, it probably needs a lot more.
Yeah. I
And
mean, you're in a
usually
state
what,
of inflammation, right?
yeah.
I was probably so inflamed to the point where I couldn't walk and it was going to all my nerves and triggering sciatica and et cetera,
Mhm.
that I probably needed it. Like now I do it once a day, for 20
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah.
But at that point, I needed to do it so I could even function. But
Yeah.
I swear by I mean, it's a very expensive red light belt that I got, but I swear by it because I feel like it saved my life. I really,
Oh,
feel
that's
that
good to
way.
hear.
And I'm a strong believer that you can put as much ice as you want or as many heat packs. I was told at that time, oh, alternate the heat and the cold because we don't know, blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah. So, you can do it, but this is almost like your heat or your ice on steroids, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, when you need it and you're in that much pain.
Yeah. And I think different devices have different protocols. So a panel may be different than a belt that you put on your arm because I have the one that you put on your it's like a belt and then you put it on your body. And I thought in the beginning, I thought for it wasn't working. I was like, this is not working. I don't know what's happening. And the company said, well, no, you don't just put it on your hips. You put it on the side of the hips. You put it on your lower back. You have to rotate it around. I didn't know this. And then the magic happened. And then again, 3 times a day. And if you're having more experienced pain, but they were saying, don't do it all the time because it's very powerful. You got to
Yeah.
take 2 days off, either 5 days on, 2 days off, or 3 days on, and then a day. And then, you want to take some time off because I think you don't realize the power if you have a really good device that it has, and you think the more the better. And probably not a good idea
Probably not.
to do it,
Yeah. Yeah.
but in your case, you figured it out. That
Oh
was
my
so
God,
good.
best thing ever. So Zora, tell us like what are some, kind of hacks that you would leave our audience with? I know you talked a little bit about nutrition, breath work. But if you could, advocate for something for everyone to be doing, what would those things be?
Mm. Yeah, well, the breath work is a good one. I think that solves a lot of issues if you're suffering from one thing or another. But I think one of the most powerful things is is your community, and meet people and be with the people who love you and support you. Pick up the phone, tell somebody you love them. Do those things now. You don't want to be saying it at their funeral as a eulogy. You want to be connecting with those people and telling them how much you like them, but really spending the time. And it's like you said in the Harvard study of adult development, the most powerful thing that we can do, it's more than not smoking, more than exercise, more than any diet, is having those strong social connections. And we often forget that because we're so focused on other things. And I think I want to leave people with, yeah, call your friend, plan a trip, or go see her or him, have that coffee together. We get so wrapped up in our lives that we don't have time anymore for that. But those are the things that truly heal.
That's so amazing. Thank you so much, Zora. Can you tell our listeners where they can find you and your wonderful podcast?
Oh, you can find me at hackmyage.com. If you forget that, Zora the Explorer, you'll always find me there. And I'm on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, LinkedIn, I kind of everywhere. You're more than welcome to join our biohacking menopause community if you're concerned about menopause and concerned about your future self as well, because we're not just about suppressing symptoms.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Zora, for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, listeners and viewers, for tuning in. If you want to catch more episodes of Uncover Your Eyes, make sure to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and on YouTube. To learn more about me, follow me on Instagram at dr.Meenal Agarwal. Until next time, keep those eyes uncovered.